If I look in the character control, I want to look at the update part, fixed update inside character control. And I don't want all this individual code regarding the subcomponents inside character control. I'm going to go back to the editor. Inside the subcomponents folder, let me create a new C# script called SubComponent Processor. Go in there, namespace as usual, and the character controller is just going to have one instance of the subcomponent processor. This processor is going to take care of things like fixed updating the subcomponents or update subcomponents. So if I look back in the character control, updating individual subcomponents, F12, these functions will be inside the processor. Just bring them over. We also want to bring over the dictionary. Here it is, subcomponents dictionary. Bring this over too. Let's create an instance inside the character controller, public subcomponent processor. Just call it subcomponent processor. And in the beginning, we want to look for it. Get component in children, subcomponent processor. You know, we're just moving things around. Let me go back to the update. So here we just update the processor, subcomponent processor, update subcomponents. Here again, we get the processor and say fixed update subcomponents. These things, we move them over to the processor, fixed update, the update. I'm going to rename the dictionary. Since we're already in the subcomponent processor, we know it's related to the subcomponents. Let me just say components dictionary. I want the processor to have access to character control. In the beginning of the game, we look for the character controller. Get component in parent, character control. And every subcomponent will have access to the processor. So Control T, subcomponent. And instead of the character controller, we'll just have the subcomponent processor. Subcomponent processor. In the beginning, we look for it. Get component in parent, subcomponent processor. For the character control, they used to be here. Let me just create a return. Control get, we look at the processor and return that controller. Now we should be getting a bunch of error messages. Let's go in there and fix them. So the dictionary is just in a different place. We get the processor and the dictionary. Next, same thing here. Fix because the dictionary has moved. And that's it. And we just repeat. Instead of the character control, we now look at the processor and get the dictionary that way. Next. The insta-kill is not a subcomponent yet, so we go through character control, subcomponent processor, and then the dictionary. This will be fixed later on. Next. Okay, we're still inside insta-kill. Just fix the references. Go through the processor and then the dictionary. Next. Okay, this one's a subcomponent. We already have the processor. Get the dictionary. Next. We don't need the testing sphere. Just get rid of this whole thing. Next. Just fix the lines. Next. Okay, these two might be the last ones. Get the processor and then get the dictionary. Processor, dictionary. If I go back, okay, all the errors are gone. Now I'm going to attach the processor to Sophie. Here is the game object called SubComponents. I'm going to attach the processor. And let's make sure that this is applied to the original prefab, so it's applied everywhere. If I play, everything should be exactly the same. Okay. Let me just test a few things. Now, you might be wondering why I'm doing all this. Later, most of these dirty stuff will be gone from the character controller, and not just gone, they'll be tucked away in a way that would make things manageable. At least that's the plan. Right now, things might look buggy and chaotic, but eventually you'll be able to see the cleaner version. And also, you don't want to move on without cleaning up or organizing or refactoring, because you're going to build more stuff on top. And if you do without organizing things, everything's going to quickly go out of control and your project's going to crumble. Debugging is going to be a giant mess. So you want to make sure that you think about the overall structure as you go on. And that's it for this video. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.